I was going to swap coilovers in that tonight. Now I'm not. You can have the whole garage. I gotta find a new house now. Alright, so had to break that bolt there and the bolt behind loose. You'll see this by the smog canister. It's just the bracket that holds the, I can't remember the part right now because it's late, but it basically goes through your distributor. And it goes over your actual strut top or top hat or whatever you call it. It's late, and I had to fight with this because it basically broke two of my ratchets because Craftsman isn't very good anymore. So, got these broke loose, used PB Blaster, and right now we're about to pull the old strut. And from what I understand, this is the original one from 93, so it's been due to get changed. And we'll have that one in soon. See you in the next little bit. Alright, check out. This thing feels like a toy. Like I'm seeing the first little bit of it with the rest of you guys filming this. Yeah. There might be a little tab I gotta weld over on the coilover, but that's progress. Let's go grab the new one to compare. I would say there's a bit of a difference now, isn't there? Cool. Alright, see you in the next little part. Oh, how's it look? Oh, it's good. Yep. Waiting on some paint to dry for the nuts I cleaned up. I'll be reusing the old ones that were here. Just wanted to get a quick update since I didn't get as much footage as I wanted to for the driver's side. Passenger's side, at some point I was trying to get a wheel bearing change, and the shop I took it to took 3 tries and they kept messing it up, and they ended up destroying the hub while trying to set a bearing. So I ended up getting another hub and basically brake assembly and knuckle from a junkyard car. And from all that, they basically rounded off the bolts for, well, the strut to the knuckle. I wish they wouldn't have done that, but this is the fun part where I'm literally trying to break loose nuts that are rounded off, and I finally got to break loose. Just as an FYI, you get definitely try and have a Dremel with you, because you'll have to cut these in half and chip away at them with a hammer and a straight blade screwdriver, or chisel preferably. If you do so, choose to deal with a auto shop not knowing what the hell they are doing. Anyways, I'll have an update on the before and after of this, and I'll try and get a picture of this with the wet sport wheel that will eventually get restored to go to this car. See you in the next part, guys. Later. Well, I guess that means now. Final moments of the car having the last piece of latex house paint was covered in. Alright, just as a reference, you want to try and scrub off most of the crud around the surface where you're going to be bolting your top out of the coilover at. I ended up just scrubbing it with a Lysol wipe and just get it clean and sanded it a little bit. It's the myth, it's the legend, it's that stupid 18mm wrench I couldn't find that's upside down. So, it's an 18mm wrench for that side as well as that side. And with this being the driver or passenger side, I can show a bit more detail now. I opened these up 250mm or thousandths on a Bridgeport, and that's how these coilovers can fit these Festiva knuckles. If I haven't mentioned that in an earlier part of the video, I'm going to be splicing together. Anyways, to make it where each of these lower parts of the coilover match each other, bolting onto the knuckle, I've actually taken a Allen key that I found that fits basically about the right camber that I'm looking for without doing any adjustment to the top hats to set the bolt spacing from behind it. If we can get the camera in. But no, we might be able to get a side view of it though. There we go. See? To have the Allen key try and space itself directly behind the bolt to the end of the slot it has for adjustment. Doing this, I can make it where if I do say adjustment of 1 degree more of camber on this side and try and do that on the other side, I'll know I have an equal 1 degree of camber added to the car on either side, not something where it's like 1 degree over here and 1.5 degrees over there because the knuckles aren't bolted in the same way. It's just a small thing to do, but it's something that'll make a big difference later. See you in the next part. Quick reference, these are grade 10 for metric. It's roughly grade 8 for standard, or I may be getting them mixed up right now. But for whatever reason, it's 5/8 in the front for the bolt and 18 millimeters for the back of odd reasons I found out. So that is just strange, but hey, it's working. Alright, this is after I've torqued these down. Just used like a little breaker bar to extend the wrenches out just to make sure I got as much leverage as I wanted to get them tightened down. You don't have to use an inch impact like the place was that destroyed my hub and my knuckle previously on this side that the prior video showed. But one thing that may kill me that I will own up to is I just have a zip tie holding a loop around my brake line to the shock body for right now. I just want to get these on to an alignment shop just to make sure everything's square when I basically check it out and get an alignment just for my toe anyways, since it's pulling the knuckles in, which is doing this, and it's bringing my toe to where it's basically toed in, and it doesn't make any car drive very well when you do that. So I'm going to be taking it to an alignment shop, all that stuff, but I'm just going to make a mental note to anyone, like you may want to weld on a tab onto this lower shock body just to hold your brake line to it. You can cut the old one off from your old strut if you want to, or you can try with the zip ties. I don't know how long this is not going to last. I will be checking on this pretty frequent as I want to see what happens, but in the meantime, this will last me to get to a place to check on it. And I'm about to break the jam nut for our rod end loose, and I'm just going to just adjust this in a little bit because we have can't remember the name for what we have here, but I can basically put a wrench on this and twist it all around to pull the ball joint in to basically get rid of our toe in, and then I'll just bring the jam nut back up. But as I'm doing this PB blaster just help break it loose right now. After we get all that done, the old wheel goes back on and we get to show off the wet sport again. So yeah, see you then. So we're at the back of the car now. I realize I need to clean my exhaust tip. I've been kind of forgetting to do that since life. And yeah, back of the car. Trailing arm setup and all that fun stuff. If you have one of these, you know. And I've got there we go. Haven't taken the wheel off, but that's the backside of the bolt that runs through, that these are known to basically snap off and cause a lot of trouble for everyone who's just changing these for servicing or just putting in the coilovers. So I'm about to go to bed because it's like very, very late and caffeine is not a good idea, but here I am. I mean, we did get the other coilover on. Anyways, I'm just going to spray a bunch of PB Blaster on that for the back side here that we're trying to look at, and on the front side of it on either side of the strut, and just let it sit for a while and probably douse it again before I actually take the wheel off. And with any hope, this will be better than the front end of the car where I had a few bolts break off. See you in the next part. Just a quick little note to make. You'll need to remove hardware from here, screw here, a few screws from back here, and this should basically slide out after I take my little cargo cover or lower cargo cover out, and it should lift away or drop away like this, and I'll have access to the top of my strut tower. Figured just for reference of how bad these stock struts have gotten. It's one hand. So yeah, that's not great. So something that will need to be loosened is the seatbelt. Some people will take the top of the rear cargo cover area where the speaker mounts off as well. I'm just trying to avoid taking off more than I absolutely have to. Ignore that. So yeah, just take that loose. Wrench holding this, another wrench breaking this loose. Hopefully use some PB Blaster just to avoid any crazy things breaking again. And we'll be reusing a few parts of the original strut when we put the new coilover way over there on. See you in the next part. Just a reference, you shouldn't be able to pull down and up on your strut by hand like I was able to. So if you don't use coilovers, at least change them if they're that bad. Still fine with the bolt. That's gonna be fun. Alright, just cleaning the garage. I had to grind, as you can see, almost all the way through this way to wear down more of what was just rust creating threads through something that never had threads. That was the lower bushing for, where else is the rest of the pile of parts? I think I threw a strut over there. But I had to cut the eyelet apart just to get through to the rubber that was around this eyelet, and then grind it down, and then hose it with PB Blaster. Almost got it cleaned up. That's a pile of mess from the 3, and that's the car out there right now. Seems to be picking up more light than what there is out here, but this is what the car looks like right now with 3 out of the 4 coilovers on. I still need to adjust them. I literally just got the car out here so I could clean. It's better so far, but we'll get some better shots soon. A lot of this away, going through a few different parts of the metal sleeve and then the rubber that they made really difficult to get out of this. I'll be pulling the interior and pulling this side out, and we'll be changing the strut then. Since these are too thin and you can't get normal wrenches on without them trying to strip out, I'm having to cut these off, so good riddance. They're M10 by 125 pitch for the original struts, or if you're doing the aftermarket coilover setup as I'm doing, they're both the same thread pitch. Hope that helps. More than likely, you'll have to cut these out on both sides. So, try to cut it diagonal across or grind it however to get through the outer part of the strut, and then we'll have the second giant massive part. And as I'm starting to do, try and cut from behind if you can. It's the most space you'll have to actually get a Dremel or any kind of cutoff in air tool or not, to basically get it to separate and pull out from this way after you get a spring compressor, or just brute force of pulling down the spring and pulling it out. Oh, look at that, we have a breakdancing screwdriver. There we go. So this, if I can get my phone to stay, there we go. Camera focus. I've basically cut through and weakened also the top part, and now I'm able to bend the eyelet. Now that I can do that, I can easily get a screwdriver in behind here and pry more once I shut the camera off, and bust this one half off, and then this front part that's still connected to the shock should be easy to just tap out now. That was just a quick little tip I wanted to show what I was doing. This was the sleeve inside of the lower part of the strut. Spring is somewhere out there outside because I tossed it, because I don't want a press spring inside of here. Now we just have the stupid rubber bushing left, and then the metal sleeve inner, well, shaft that goes through here. Then I will try to basically break this loose with a wrench with some PB Blaster that's been soaking on this for a few days. So, quick note, you'll want your bump stop sanded down to where it fits snugly in here and very snug right here, just to help center the spring. If you choose to use the old spring tops for the old bump stop, they fit pretty well, but you'll need to drill out slightly. We'll cut to this being drilled after, or with the drill, and just like that, it's drilled out. See? That spring should settle closer to this once we have weight on the car, but it fits perfectly for the diameter of the bump stop mount and to support the spring. Then we'll use the factory little rubber bushing for the top of this, goes through the strut top mount, and then the rubber grommet on top, then the washer, then the 2 nuts, which I had to replace earlier because the factory ones likely will be too narrow for you to really do anything with other than just cutting off. On to the next part. So, after getting through all the layers of the horrible onion, you get to this part and you have to grind down to where you start to see the actual bolt inside. You try and run it across all the way so you can either pry it apart or at least get PB Monster soaking inside of it. And then what worked for the other side was putting a blowtorch on, or map gas, or whichever you have, and heating this up and putting an impact on the end of the bolt. Hopefully that works. In case it hasn't been noted, you'll want to grind this side down, or whichever side on the rear shock. You'll put the side that's been ground upon towards the inside here. It helps get the shock away from the tire as well as fit your actual space in between the inner and outer support and mount for the rear shock. Lastly, I can't say exact amount you'll have to take off. It varies some between every car just because of how basically the bushings were made and how they get smashed for however many years. So that should cover it. All right, this is ready to go in, ground down, test fitted and all that fun stuff. Bump stop is up, centering the little top hat for the old bump stop, and we have the old little rubber piece for just below the shock tower. We'll install this thing, get some pictures. One note, always try and use anti-seize. I can't zoom in right now, but it's that right there. It will prevent you from having to grind out and basically suffer for like, what has it been, 4 hours trying to grind and cut away all the old bushing parts. Next time these need to be changed. That's all. Just a heads up, stink bugs fly. There's the car lowered. Got to get everything balanced to each other or adjusted to match, but I'd say it's better.